Hello, everyone, and welcome to your Good Governance and Social Responsibility subject. I will be the instructor for this course, and for this session, what we will be talking about is business ethics as foundation of CSR, or corporate social responsibility. All right, so let's go ahead now and take a look first on the term business ethics. Most of the experts say that business ethics is actually an oxymoron, but let's go ahead and have a look first on what is the meaning of oxymoron. So according to Merriam-Webster dictionary, oxymoron is a combination of contradictory or incongruous words, such as, say, for example, cruel kindness. So basically, if we're talking about oxymoron, this is an idiomatic expression in which you are using two contradictory terms as if it is actually goes with one another. All right. So again, an example for this would actually be cruel kindness. We all know that kindness is actually a positive thing, while on the other hand, cruelty would actually be a negative one. But if you will be saying cruel kindness, that is actually an example of an idiomatic expression, which is an oxymoron. So why we are saying that business ethics is an oxymoron? So let's go ahead and take a look first on the meaning of the two words that are being used or joined together. All right. So first, let's go with the traditional sense. So in traditional sense, people will get into the business in order for us or for them to maximize profit. So of course, everyone who would want to engage into a business would want to maximize profit. Who doesn't want to have that profit? So definitely everybody who would want to actually be able to establish a business would want to gain huge profit. All right. So it commonly goes with the situation wherein you are doing everything so that you'll just be able to get the most out of your investment. All right. So definitely, if we're talking about business, this is looking into the situation wherein you are looking into gaining profits. Okay. Whereas if we're talking about the second term, which is ethics, it would actually deal with anything other than profit. So definitely, if we're talking about ethics, and if we will be looking into the field of philosophy, ethics would actually the specialized study of what is right and what is wrong. So if we're talking about what is right and what is wrong, there would come every situations or every circumstances wherein you will be facing a dilemma in which you will be asked whether to decide on a thing or not to decide on a thing. Do a thing that is needed to be done or do nothing at all. So with that being said, ethics would actually be asking everyone to do what is right and to prevent what is wrong. So where is the dilemma in this oxymoron? So definitely, if we're talking about the dilemma of this oxymoron, it's all about doing the right thing. Doing the right thing, even if you are engaging in a situation or in a concept in which you would want to maximize your resources, you would want to maximize your profit, you would want to maximize the things that you will be able to garner, despite the fact that you would actually be encountering a lot of situations. So why is it a dilemma? So it is a dilemma simply because, as we all know, most of us would actually have this common or general thinking in which whenever you are abiding to moral principles, you commonly end up as a poor person. Okay, so those persons who are actually doing their best to do everything that is actually within ethical standards, they commonly end up getting poorer. Okay, as time goes by, definitely they are not garnering what they must need to garner. And with that being said, we are already on a dilemma in which shall we still continue to do this moral principle? Shall we still do the application of such ethical theories, ethical standards, and ethical codes, despite the fact that later on we might actually end up getting poor? And being a businessman, being a manager of an institution, of an enterprise, or a company, definitely you do not want to actually be bankrupt or end up in a situation in which you will actually gain loss rather than profit, right? So with that being said, we are always being confronted to that situation. So ethics would tell us do the right thing, but we are doing this in a business context. And as we all know, and to repeat it, if we're talking about business context or in the context of business, what you would want to garner is to actually a huge profit coming from maybe some situations wherein you have limited resources, but you are garnering a lot of money. Okay. So also, if you will be looking into the facts, or if you will be looking into the data, most of us would actually think about those persons who are actually doing crooked things would commonly ends up being rich, right? So if we will be looking into such situation, definitely we will have that problem, we will have that dilemma in which we will actually have second thoughts. Shall we still do the right thing, even though that doing the bad things or being the incorrect or the wrong things would actually gain us profit? So with that being said, as part of this course or as part of this subject, the main goal of this subject is to actually immerse you to different ethical situation in which the institution that we are actually having right now, or wherein you are currently enrolled into, definitely would want you to be managers, would want you to be employees, in which you are doing the right thing even though that you are targeting huge profit, because that would actually take you, beyond other persons who are also doing or managing their own business or their own enterprise. So what we would want to do is to actually apply this business ethics in different situations that you may be called upon to later on. As we all know, being part of the business sector, you're actually your main objective is to actually make your company, make your institution, make your business as one that is gaining a lot of profits. But with this subject, definitely we would want to be different from others. We would want to be different to those usual managers who are actually doing a lot of things that is considered to be incorrect just to gain money. All right. So with this, again, the contradiction between business and ethics arises because ethical behavior is not always rewarded and ethical behavior is not always being punished. As we all know, even in different situations, say for example in school, whether you're doing something that is correct, commonly, I must say myself, definitely there would come a situation wherein your ethical behavior, whether it's correct, definitely it's not being rewarded. There would come a situation wherein you are doing the harder situation or the harder option in which being good, in which you are still not being rewarded. And I do understand that that would actually be difficult for most of us, because who doesn't want to be rewarded, right? We're doing these things because we are looking forward to that situation or to that result in which we are envisioning a situation again that you would garner that reward, that your actions, all of your sacrifices, all of your efforts in which you are doing, okay, you would want it to be rewarded. You would want to gain something out of the things, out of the deeds, out of the contributions that you are doing for your institution or for your enterprise. Okay. And there would actually come a situation wherein those persons who are doing bad things, those persons who are deciding on a wrong situations or wrong decisions, they are not being punished. Commonly, they are still being rewarded because it is being masked into something that is appealing to those of the bosses, those of the owners. And we do not want to have that situation. That is why definitely we will be confronted by such contradiction, because again, ethical behavior is not always being rewarded. Mind you, I will always keep on repeating this one because this is the reality. Once you go out to the real world, once you immerse with the persons that you will be dealing with, your business, with your institution, with your enterprise, or even organization or company, definitely not all of the time that whenever you're doing good, you will be rewarded. Accept that reality already. But we would want, as part of this subject, definitely we are targeting to that situation in which we would want managers, we would want owners, we would want employees who are still doing the right thing despite the fact that you might not be rewarded later on. Because why we're doing this? Simply because it's the best thing to do, and it will take us be different from other managers or be other persons who are actually dealing with such business or institutions as well. All right, so let's go ahead and continue. All right. So since we are already talking about business ethics and we already mentioned that business ethics is an oxymoron, let's define what is business ethics. So if we're talking about business ethics, this is a form of applied ethics that examines moral rules, moral theories, and principles in a business context. So to let everyone know, once you already establish a business, once you already applied for a job under a certain institution, enterprise, or company, there would be some moral rules, moral regulations, moral theories, and moral principles that are to be observed. Okay, so again, all of the companies, all of the institutions, all of the organizations, most especially in business, there are rules, regulations, theories, and principles about morality that need to be followed. All right. So that is why, if we're talking about business ethics again, you will be examining your moral rules. You will be examining moral theories and you will be examining moral principles in which you are looking into a business in a circumstance related or circumstances related to your business. Okay, so we also define business ethics as a normative discipline whereby particular ethical standards are being advocated and then applied. This is actually the main goal of this subject. In order for us to actually create another or a much better workplace, much better situation or industry, we need to actually apply ethical standards and we must be able to do it. We will be able to do it if we will be advocating it on our own. Most especially that most of you are actually to be team. I actually consider you already to be future managers of your own institution, maybe. Or if not, definitely you will still actually manage because all of us, or most of you, or all of you, I must say, I believe that you will be successful someday. And if you will go along the way, it is expected as you take this course that you will be applying these ethical standards, you will be advocating it, you will be asking for other persons to be an ally for this cause. All right, because we would want to be different from the others. We would want to change our industry, we would want to change the competition, we would want to change the business enterprise or even the company into a much better situation or concept. All right. And according to De George in 1999, business ethics makes specific judgments about what is right or what is wrong, as it teaches what ought to be done and what ought not to be done. Just like what I've mentioned earlier, if we're talking about business ethics, we are looking into the situations wherein you will be deciding on matters in which you will be dealing with moral dilemma. Okay, so you will be dealing with the situations wherein will you do it or will you not do it? Okay, despite the fact that it will gain you something or it will yield too much profit compared to the situations that will actually make you bankrupt later on, right? And just to let everyone know, this would actually not be an easy thing to do or an easy matter to decide on. That is why we will be immersing later on as we go along with this subject. We will be immersing you into different moral theories, moral standards, or even moral principles that you may be able to apply later on. So that if you will be confronted with such dilemma as mentioned by the George in 1999, definitely you will be choosing what is right. And you will be doing the things that ought to be done, and you will be prevented from doing the things that ought not to be done already. Okay, so let's go ahead and continue. Now, we will also be looking into the anthropology of business ethics. All right. Okay, so as we talk about anthropology, let's first define what is the term anthropology. So if we're talking about anthropology, Britannica.com would actually tells us the definition that anthropology is the science of humanity, which studies human beings in aspects ranging from biology and evolutionary history of Homo sapiens to the features of society and culture that decisively distinguish humans from other animal species. So simply put, in doing business, definitely we are also looking into ourselves as part of those human persons. All right. So let's go ahead and take a look into this one. So it has been said that the person who works for or manages business is not just an abstract being or just merely an intelligent one. Okay? But that person or that employee or that manager of a certain business, institution, enterprise, or even a company is a human person with dignity who is subject to social, political, moral, and economic issues. With that being said, it is actually correct to assume that this person is actually not a robot in which you will expect to be perfect at all times. Okay? All of us, being human persons with dignity, we actually being confronted of a lot of challenges and even issues in our own lives. Even now that you are yet to be managers or you are yet to be employees, I know that by taking this class, but or before taking this class, you are already facing a lot of issues in your own lives, correct? So with that being said, if we're talking into or if we're looking into the anthropology of business ethics, you are looking into the situation or we must be looking into those persons part of the institution or enterprise as someone who is actually subjected to social, political, moral, and economic issues. What does it mean? It means that definitely as you go along the way, as you encounter a lot of members of your own institutions, of your organization or your company, we must actually be more understanding about the situation that we might actually encounter a lot of issues. Let me give you an example in terms of deciding on matters involving, say, for example, as we go near the elections, we know that there might actually be some political issues that your company or that your institution might actually be facing, in which it will greatly affect the judgment of you or other members of your institution. Morality will also be a part of this one, in which, as we all know, we come from different, say, for example, religion or even ethnicities. And with that being said, we are familiar with different moral codes that we actually grown up. As we grow up, we actually have moral codes or moral principles that we are believing that may actually be different from those of the other members of your institution or company. Okay. And lastly, your economic issues. Most or the greatest factor of the economic issues would actually be, say, for example, your salary. Definitely, if we're talking about salary, this would actually be a great factor in which a person may actually be deciding on a matter. So one good circumstance of this is whether you be staying for that business, or will you continue working for that business even though that you are not being compensated for what you deserve. So that is actually one of the dilemmas. So definitely, as we go along this way, or as we go along this subject, we will be looking into those situations. And first, we will be able to do that if we will be treating those persons part of or as members of of the society, or as members of the community, and as part of your institution, as a human person with dignity who may actually be subjected to different issues such as social, political, moral, and economic ones. Okay, so let's go ahead and continue. All right. So in business ethics, it has also been said that there is a spirituality on it. Okay, so say for example, let me give you an example that has been enunciated or pronounced by Pope John the 13th, as cited in Maximiano in 2003. All right. So Pope John the 13th mentioned that the human person, a business, the supplier, or a consumer is a microscopic species, as he is also a social being that he has been elevated to the supernatural order. So with that being said, so Pope John the 13th would tell you that being social being, this human person, the business, the supplier, even the consumer will also be elevated to the supernatural order. All right. And it has also been mentioned in Libertatis Consentiae. So a good business leader is convinced that business should be at the service of the human person and not the human person at the service of business, and that ethics is above technology and spirit above matter. So what does it mean? So definitely Libertatis Consentiae would tell us that if you are a good business leader, you're actually not serving the business itself. It's the other way around, in which you are doing business simply because you would want to serve the human person. You are doing business, or you are doing some enterprise, you establish some company so that you will be able to help or to serve the human persons under it. So in a certain company, it should not be the business in which you are serving. It should be the business serving the human person, be it in the economic needs or other aspects of our life. Okay, because if it's the other way around, definitely if you are hanging, or if you're lining into that situation in which the human person is at the service of business, it doesn't make you a good business leader. Okay, and at all times it must be noted that ethics is above technology and spirit above matter. All right, so let's go ahead and continue. Okay, so we may now ask, what is the role of ethics in management? So the need for ethics in economic life covers a myriad of both practical and moral problems that arise out of specific functional areas of management, be it in the planning stage, organizing stage, strategizing stage, or even in the implementation and even the evaluation stage. So ethics would actually always be present in these functional areas of your management. So let's take a look into this one. All right. So in terms of ethical management, so it just like what I mentioned earlier, ethics can be found in different aspects or in different parts of your enterprise. Okay, not only in your enterprise, but in all aspects of our life. So let me give you an example. So one of which is actually your workplace. So it has been said that ethical management is the foundation of CSR, or the corporate social responsibility. Definitely, we'll be talking about this later on. Definitely, if we're talking about ethical management, again, this is your foundation of your CSR in your workplace. It covers those ethical issues arising from the employer-employee relationship. So one good example, as mentioned earlier, is the rights and obligations that are justly owed between them. So definitely, as an employer, you actually have a right to be served, or your business needs to be served as something that is needed. Okay, so as employer, you deserve a good service coming from your employees. All right. Same as if you are an employee, you also deserve to be compensated with with your contribution. So such as salaries and benefits. So it will cover ethical management in your workplace. So ethical management regarding intellectual property rights will also be an issue here, because issues regarding copyright, patent, and trademark infringement, business intelligence, employee trading, leaking, and information or industrial espionage are already rampant nowadays. Okay, there are a lot of persons who are stealing property rights even though that they do not deserve to do that. All right, so that's the second one. The third one would be ethical management in sales, advertising, and marketing. So issues on price fixing, moral dimension of the antitrust law, bait and switch, viral marketing, and pyramid scandal, among others, are part of this sphere. Okay. How about in ethical management in production? So the stakeholders involved are the consumers, the general public, and the environment, where problems arise out of new technologies such as your mobile phone radiation, and even your genetically modified food. All right. So that would be your fourth one. And the last one would be ethical management in finance, accounting, and auditing. So the issues comprise executive compensation. So we may actually look into the criminal manipulation of the financial markets. Bribery would also be a thing here. Facilitation payments, fraud, and even false reporting. Right? So now the biggest challenge for this is not to learn about this one. Okay? The biggest challenge is to actually implement such ethical standards in your workplace or in every aspect of our life, and even sustain this ethical management. Why? Because if we will only be learning about this, and we'll just be keeping this on our mind, nothing will change. Okay, so the biggest challenge to this is to actually implement it and later on sustain it, so that ethical management will already be a right thing in our situation or in our workplace. All right. So lastly, what does it mean to be ethically accountable in a globalizing society? So according to Stefan Linsen, as cited in Crampton in 2012, we have already seen significant consequences that ethical failings can have on an organization and in the industry at large. However, we have also observed the profound positive impact that sound corporate ethics can have on the long-term success and sustainability of a company. Nowadays, companies are not just interested in gaining profits. Companies are now being looked into their contributions into the society in which the institution or the company is established. So definitely, they are already looking into what we call as ambag sa lipunan. All right. So with that being said, it is the goal of the company also to return or give the return to the society in which they are also obligated, even though that is it is not mandated to them, because the society already looks into that situation and they are already expecting that businesses or companies are not just doing profits. They are also expected to give back to the community. And according to Forbes in 2012, in the corporate level, there is an increasing recognition of fundamental international rights and corresponding duties codified to what are referred to as codes of conduct. The usual codes of conduct cover four major business areas. So these are basic human rights, employee practices and policies, consumer protection, environment stewardship. All right. So that would actually be the answer for our question, what does it mean to be ethically accountable in a globalizing society? Okay, so as we conclude this session, let me now ask you. So, how will you be able to contribute or advocate ethical management in your workplace or business someday? So, I'm already expecting that you will be leaving a comment with this video with your answers. So, again, how will you be able to contribute or advocate ethical management in your workplace or business someday? So, I'm expecting your answers in our comment section. And that would actually be it for our discussion about business ethics as foundation of CSR. So everyone, let me grab the opportunity to thank you for attending our first session. And I hope and I'm looking forward to have you on our succeeding ones. So till then, thank you very much and may everyone take care of themselves.